Hello, my name is Lorna and I'm one of the ministers from Witham United Reformed Church, and this is our midweek Keeping Connected message of encouragement. I found it really good to look at the nature of God over these last few Sundays. As Mark said, it's been a bit of a challenge, but it's also been great. We've been reminded that God doesn't change. So whatever he is, he always was, and he always will be. He is holy, loving, merciful, compassionate, just, faithful, powerful, among many other things. And it's not so much that we don't know that he's all of these things, just that we tend to forget, especially in the maelstrom of the ups and downs of ordinary life. When things are tough, when we want to sit down and cry, well, actually that's fine, have a cry. I'm all for a cry because I think that tears are healing. But then it's so important to remember that we can and should turn to God because he is God. He is in control and he is good. He wants the best for us because he does love us to bits. I know I needed that timely reminder of God's nature to reshape my perspective, my thinking about current affairs. I needed it to remind me that just because he's not doing what I think he ought to do, or the way I'd like him to do it, that doesn't mean to say he doesn't know, or that he doesn't care, or that he has abandoned me, or anyone. I found it liberating to acknowledge and accept that it is impossible to understand God completely, to understand his thoughts and his ways, because God does not do things the way that we would, the way we expected or even hoped. We don't need to know the detail, only to trust him and follow him. We have been given the end plan, but not the detail of what will happen on the way. So however difficult or frustrating we might find that, we do have to let go and let God. Let God be God. My daily readings are in Exodus at the moment, so I've been travelling with Moses, metaphorically speaking of course, from Egypt to Midian and then from Midian back to Egypt. I can't recap the whole story now because it's too long. So do look at the early chapters of Exodus. But God called Moses to go from his cosy family life in Midian back to Egypt, where he was in fact born and brought up, with the task of rescuing his fellow Israelites, God's people, from slavery. It's a very long story. But the short version is Moses goes to Egypt. Before he speaks to Pharaoh, he has to first of all convince his own people that God has called him to rescue them. Why should they believe him? He was brought up with the comfort and education of an Egyptian prince. However, first hurdle over, he convinces them, then he goes to Pharaoh, requesting that his people should be allowed to go into the desert to worship God. Pharaoh, not surprisingly, decided no. In fact, he made life even more miserable for the Israelites. The result? An extremely unhappy workforce. So they complained. First of all to Pharaoh, but that was a lost cause. So then they complained to Moses. What could Moses do? He could only turn to God. He was just as mystified as anybody else. Why, he asked, why did you send me? It's only made things worse. And, I quote, and you've done nothing to rescue them. God replies to Moses, I am the Lord. I will free you. I will rescue you, redeem you, claim you, be your God, bring you into the land I promised your ancestors and give it to you. I am the Lord. Moses got an answer. I suspect he didn't really want to know that. He wanted to know when, where and how they were going to be rescued, especially the when. Preferably tomorrow, please. God simply reminds Moses of two truths he needs to know. The Lord is God. The Lord is good. If we know those two truths, really know them and own them, hold fast to them in our hearts and our minds, not just one or the other, if we can ground our whole being, behaviour, thoughts and demeanour in that fact, those facts, God is good and he is God, then we will have the peace that only God can give us, of being adopted into his family and enjoying his love and his grace. It reminds me of a book I've just finished recently, and it's called The Mystery of God's Will. 12 chapters later, the conclusion says, God's will is, from our human, finite standpoint, a mystery. title and conclusion. But we who know God and know his nature know that in the end everyone lives happily ever after in the new life that God offers us through Jesus. We all like stories to end like that, don't we? Talking of new life, don't forget the Lent Bible study starting soon. Shrove Tuesday, Pancake Tuesday is next Tuesday, which means that Lent starts on Wednesday. New life. Again, why not get a real Easter egg with fairly traded chocolate and an Easter story booklet and activity book, because Easter is all about new life. There's a choice of white, milk or dark chocolate, and please do contact me if you would like one, or more, please. Bless you. See you next week. Bye.